Hello everybody, welcome to this IELTS speaking practice video. Today we're going to talk about the awesome topic of free speech. My name is ProfRich and you're here to learn some English. So let's talk about this free speech, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, not that, not my chat GPT. But free speech, you know, it's really great when I don't fully prepare for these things and something goes horribly wrong live. How can I fix this right now? I can do this. I can do this, right? Studio mode. I don't see it anywhere. Right, okay, fine. Fine. Hello to everybody in the chat. How are you doing? Here's Velociraptor. Gotcha. There we go. So, free speech. What does each word mean? So, free and speech. In this phrase, free speech, what does each word mean? What do we mean with free and what do we mean with speech? What is free speech? You have 30 seconds to type your answers in the chat, and then I will give you my answer. So, talking about free speech, what does it mean? What do we mean by free, and what do we mean by speech? They are the important questions for us today. And I'd like to remind you all, while you're here to learn some English with ProfRich live, make sure that you smash that like button and hit subscribe. Today we're talking IELTS on the topic of free speech. So we have some opinions in the chat. Tetsuro says free means unlimited. Interesting. Speech is giving your opinion on a topic. So speech is an opinion. Free opinion, talking about any topics. I think these are pretty good definitions. So I would say that free means unrestricted by power or by authority. So there is no authority restricting your speech. That is the freedom, that no authority, no power is restricting that speech. But what is speech? So speech is expression using language. And we might go further to just say that speech is any form of expression. Or we might say any form of expression which doesn't directly cause physical harm. Something like that. Some people might argue that dance is a form of speech when we talk about free speech. But certainly when we say speech here, we don't only mean oral, but we also mean textual. Text is definitely included in the idea of free speech in this case. That is for certain. We are including the idea of text. So let's have a look at some vocabulary related to this topic You can see here a number of terms related to the topic of free speech. I want you to type one of these topics and then in the chat, write the definition of that topic in the chat. So, for example, if we take hate speech and we put hate speech in the chat, then what is your definition of hate speech? Hate speech. An opinion which attacks a person or group based on immutable or based on legally protected characteristics. So that's my example for hate speech. I've typed it in the chat. You can see I say hate speech, an opinion which attacks a person or group based on legally protected characteristics. So, what about these other phrases related to this topic? How can we define those phrases? So Julia says, dissenting opinions stand for different opinions and no consensus among people. I think dissenting opinions is even stronger than that, actually, Julia. So I would go as far as to say dissenting opinions are opinions which are opposed to the majority. So we take the majority opinion on something, and if we express an opinion which is opposed to that, then that is a dissenting opinion. Dissenting opinion. Dissent means you're going against the majority. Dissent. You're going against the official position. Sleepwalker says, censorship is the suppression of words that are not appropriate. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, Sleepwalker. Manuel also has his 2 cents here. Manuel says, censorship, when the government takes action about affirmations, that's opinions, which could be false and generate panic. All right? Could be false and generate panic. Is that always true, Manuel? What about when we censor an opinion which could be true and might relax people? Is that also censorship? Like there's some people who say marijuana is harmless and would be beneficial for our society. Maybe the government says you can't say that. So in that case, are they using censorship to censor something which is not harmful, but safe and might generate a feeling of relaxation? It might calm people down, but we're going to censor that. We don't want people to be calm when it comes to that topic. For example, I'm not saying that's my opinion. Censorship. It's when speech is restricted by authorities. That's right. Which could be the government or a large corporation or a powerful left-wing activist group. Or a powerful right-wing activist group. Now that's very interesting, Sleepwalker. So you've said political correctness is language that's intended to avoid offence. That's one definition. There's quite a few definitions of political correctness. The term itself is a controversial term where many people come with different angles to what political correctness is. Public discourse, normal speech made for civil servants. No. That's not public discourse, Manuel. Public discourse is the stuff that people are talking about. The stuff that people are talking about. So that's public discourse. Public discourse. I'm going to type that in the chat. Public discourse. The stuff that people are talking about. That's it. It's the public conversation. So we're left with marketplace of ideas, social media moderation, and content moderation. I don't think that's a very good definition of hate speech, Julia. You can see my definition earlier in the chat, which is a definition quite in line with the speech laws in the United Kingdom. So in the United Kingdom, we have quite strong speech laws. I don't know if you guys know this, but we have quite strong speech laws in the United Kingdom. Very serious speech laws. You can go to jail for certain things that you say in the United Kingdom. Discourse is a monologue which you display publicly. No, I don't agree it's a monologue. In English, it's actually the opposite to that, Manuel. In English, discourse is a dialogue, not a monologue. So it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue with more than one person. The discourse is the discussion in English. I think maybe that is a false friend in Spanish. Dissenting opinions written by the court justice who doesn't agree with the opinion in a given case. For example, here we go, Zoya, she's got it. Content moderation is checking the content to make sure it's in line with the rules. That's right. Hello, YouTube. Hello, YouTube moderators. How are you doing? We're an English language learning channel. It's okay. Everything is in line with your policies here. We can get the big green tick. And if you just push that button, which says rocket this video into the algorithm, then of course we will appreciate that. And all you people who've just found us through the rocketed video in the algorithm, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Today we're talking on the topic of free speech and in the context of IELTS. So let's move on, folks. Let's have some discussion on this. What sorts of questions could an IELTS examiner talk about on this topic? Let's have a look. Why is free speech important? So, folks, what do you think? Why is free speech important? Free speech is the idea that we have a right as a human, not given to us by government, but we have a right without the government. We have an innate right to give our opinion. We have that freedom. Some people say that freedom comes from our Heavenly Father, God, who gives us this God-given right to express our free opinion. Some people say it does come from the government. This right comes from the government. We don't agree with that in the West. Maybe in the UK we do, actually. But in the United States, they don't agree with that. It's one of their fundamental laws that free speech is a God-given right coming from God, not from the government. And Asmana comments that it's an element of democracy. Do you know, that's an interesting thing to say, Asmana. And when I was younger, I used to think that free speech was an element of democracy. However, two of my students at the moment are Iranian asylum seekers, and they have told me that free speech was stronger in Iran under an absolute monarchy. that is essentially a fundamentalist authoritarian monarchy, not a democracy. They say that under the democracy, their free speech is challenged a lot more, which is why one of the reasons why they left the country to come to the UK, actually. So I found that interesting because I also thought that free speech was an element of democracy. But according to them, and they know, I don't know anything about Iran at all, nothing. I don't know anything about Iran, but I have two students who are Iranian, who are young, so they're going mainly off their general ideas about the country, because actually they would have been very young during the monarchy, or maybe even not born. In fact, one of them definitely not born. But they say that freedom of speech was better with the monarchy. The absolute not like the British monarchy, but an actual monarchy where the king is the ruler and that's it. And they had more free speech, they say. That's their opinion. So that's very interesting, isn't it? Well, Tetsura says free speech can support democracy, which guarantees our equality and freedom. So maybe it's the idea that democracy only works if you have free speech. So it's not that democracy means free speech will happen, but it's more that free speech enables democracy to succeed. And without free speech, perhaps democracy will fail. In fact, maybe it's even impossible to have a democracy, really, without free speech. Because, of course, if you can control people's opinions and manipulate them, then you can control the way they vote pretty easily. Free speech is that people feel liberated to express their opinions at their disposal. And Sonia says there are many kinds of democracy. In some democratic countries, journalists are not allowed free speech. Oh dear, Sonia. Are you talking about Julian Assange? How about Edward Snowden? Actually, Edward Snowden arguably is not a journalist. But we could talk about Glenn Greenwald, perhaps. Certainly Julian Assange. Julian Assange recently made a deal to be set free from the prison here in the United Kingdom. He spent many years in jail and essentially under house arrest in the Ecuadorian embassy here in the UK. And he was not charged with a crime, actually, in the UK for most of that. So he was held in prison without being charged for a crime. Now, I didn't realise that we did that in Britain. I didn't realise that we put people in jail for years and years and didn't charge them with a crime. But apparently we do to some people, like Julian Assange. All right, let's move on. We've talked about the importance. Now, what about the disadvantages? This is also an important aspect. Let's not be the fanboys of free speech, but we have to consider also what are the downsides to free speech. What kind of problems can free speech cause? As we say, as the expression goes, it's not all chocolate boxes and roses. It's not all chocolate boxes and roses. Let me type that. It's not all chocolate boxes and roses. It's not all chocolate boxes and roses. This is a version of a famous expression, and the famous expression is, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. That's the more sort of common idiom. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not all chocolate boxes and roses, you know? We've got to consider the bad side as well. We can cause offence, Sleepwalker. That's right. So speech, if you allow people to speak freely, they can be offensive. And you know, that's really annoying, isn't it? When someone's offensive, that's really annoying, right? It's really annoying. If someone says something to you that offends you personally or offends your opinion, that's annoying, right? I mean, that can make you angry, right? I get angry when someone says something that's offensive to me. So I understand that. And you have to deal with that then. And that's annoying, right? If someone says to me, you know what? Your teaching sucks. You're not a good teacher. You're rubbish. Your methodology is wrong. You're just wrong. You've spent the last 16 years being wrong. You need to go back to school and learn how to teach. Teaching is about grammar rules, chalkboards, and exercises, and students sitting at their desks writing. Your methodology is wrong, Rich. Sit down. Now, obviously, if someone says something like that, that's going to be, well, actually, it sounds funny because I just think that opinion is so wrong that I find it funny. But someone could say something like that and I could get very offended or hurt even. Hearing people's free opinions can be painful. Can't it? It gets pretty ugly when political leaders debate. Yeah, doesn't it, Zoya? I tell you what, have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen two opposing politicians have a discussion with no moderator? So two opposing politicians who disagree, no moderator. Oh, that is wild. Like they just keep talking and they don't shut up. They don't stop. They just keep going. No, because it's not really climate change. It's caused by the gas emissions. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, the climate change. We need to build more windmills. And what are we doing with this? And what are we? And they just talk over each other. And neither of them stop. They just don't stop. It's absolutely wild. And they get louder and louder with no moderator if they disagree. It's just totally wild. A perfect representation of the human problem, isn't it? So Sonia says there can be extremist speeches that instigate violence. So this is a hot topic in free speech. This idea of instigating, inciting someone to violence, right? So we can consider a situation where I say, hey, you. I could even use my position of power as a teacher maybe. And I say to one of my students, hey, Maria, you know, that person, you know, Timmy, he's bad. He says bad things like, go get him. Go punch him in the face, Maria. And I could tell, like, Mario and Luigi and Bowser to also punch him in the face. So I can tell these 5 people to go and attack this other person, right? And maybe these 5 people, they listen to me because I'm, you know, their teacher or whatever. And then they go and do it. And then there's a question, isn't there? Like, you said this thing, and then these people did it. So who is to blame? Is it the people who did it, or the person who said it, or both? And this is the idea of incitement to violence, using your speech to cause violence. This is actually a controversial issue in free speech. It's not easy to define where the limit is, but most people agree that there is a limit to free speech. Some people say there are no limits. Christopher Hitchens actually famously defended free speech as being without limits at all. And I think he did a pretty good job of doing so. I don't know if I necessarily agree with him, but I think it's important to think about these issues and to consider where the limit is. Free speech can be hate speech. It's not sometimes clear to judge the border between free speech and hate speech. Yeah, I mean, this is the job of judges, Tetsuro. And we famously, 5 years ago, we had a judge in the Scottish law courts, the law courts in Scotland, and they famously judged that context doesn't matter. Let me say that again. They judged that context doesn't matter. Again, they judged that context doesn't matter. Now, I'm a language teacher, and I can tell you that context always matters. Not only does context matter, context is everything. Everything. Context is everything. So I have to say I totally disagree with Scottish law in this regard. I think they're wrong. I think that judge is wrong. And I think that this is my opinion as a person, but also my opinion as an expert, because I am a language expert, and I am judging that this law is wrong. Context is crucial for everything when it comes to language. So to say that context doesn't matter when it comes to hate speech is wrong. It's wrong. I don't care how long they've been a judge. They're wrong. They don't understand language. Well, actually, sorry, I take it back. I don't know if they understand language or not. Either they don't understand language or they're a liar and they're being disingenuous. So maybe they do understand language, they're just lying. I don't know. So they could be a liar or they don't understand it. I don't know which one. But it's one or the other, that's for sure. Or I don't know anything about language and I'm totally wrong about language, which I hope not, because it's one of the things that I'm most sure about. So that would be very worrying if I was wrong on this matter. All right, great. That's been fun talking about the disadvantages of free speech. So let's move on and talk about some of the other issues that an IELTS examiner might ask you here in an IELTS exam. So let's consider this question. I'm going to type a question in the chat, and I'd like you folks to comment on that question. Give me your opinion and what do you say? So, should governments impose restrictions on what can be said in public? Should governments impose restrictions on what can be said in public? What do you think about that? Let's consider this. I'll say it again. Should governments impose restrictions on what can be said in public? On what can be said? Look at that. Look at that lovely passive. On what can be said, that's a modal passive. Modal passive. That's a C1 tense right there. On what can be said in public. Should governments impose restrictions on what can be said? What can be said in public? And so Manuel's given a base example of what not to do. Tell me your opinion and let's have some reasons so we can talk about it, not just a yes or no. Should governments impose a what's it on a what's it majiggy? You know, it always surprises me that we don't get more emojis in chat because we have the emoji bouncer. You know, I think if I was in chat, I'd be... Listen to this. Second conditional, folks. If I were in chat, I'd be using emojis all the time. Okay, so we've got some people saying no, some people saying yes. Let's have the reasons. Let's have the reasons. Thank you, Sleepwalker. I appreciate that. Look at that. That is awesome. Once the speakers give their view in a polite and respectful manner, no restriction should be imposed. That's interesting. That's interesting, Zoya. Now, I definitely think that we can all agree that opinions should be given in a polite and respectful manner. But someone might argue, just to play devil's advocate, someone might argue that giving opinions in a disrespectful manner is also part of free speech. So although maybe there are consequences to being disrespectful or rude, it's not something we should censor. Sometimes restrictions cannot be avoided. See Germany and the Holocaust. I'm not quite sure what you mean, JV. Do you mean the restrictions that Nazi Germany imposed on the Jewish media during 1944? I think the Nazis censored a lot of opinions. They used a lot of restrictions on people in the 1940s, the Nazi government of Germany. But I'm not sure that we can argue that's a good thing, right? I reckon people, especially groups at risk, should be protected by haters. That's interesting. Let's go into more detail with that, Sonia, because that is the position of the United Kingdom. In my country, that is the position. And as teachers, we need to learn about that because we need to try to ensure our classrooms don't break the law. And so it is important that we understand something about hate speech laws. So in the United Kingdom, we do have the law that certain speech against protected groups is considered illegal and hateful. And you can commit a hate crime by saying certain things. Manuel says, you shouldn't say Manuel is a murderer because I'm accused of committing homicide because I've not been judged with a verdict of guilty. It's important to understand. Yeah, but the question is, Manuel, should we make it impossible to say that, or do we let people say it, but there's potentially consequences to saying it? The question of censorship is whether we should just strip that, restrict it, censor, cut it down. Julia says there are pros and cons in every topic. Free speech should be allowed without any violence and well-behaved. Very good. No comment. No, I'm not. It's not simple to know to draw the line, indeed. Indeed. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting because let me give a crude example, and I apologize to you all because this topic is on the border and it's difficult to talk about while using only respectful language. But let's say someone says to me, they say, Teacher Rich, I hate you. I hate all bald people, so I hate you. Now, if they say that, it's not very nice, right? It's pretty nasty. And if they say it in a context of being serious, like not a joke, like, I just hate all bald people, haha, right? But then, no, they say it serious, and it's not a joke, right, then that's not nice. But that's not, according to the UK, that's not hate speech, right? However, if they say, Teacher Rich, I hate you, I hate all Christians, and I hate you because you're a Christian. If they say that to me, then that potentially is breaking hate speech law. So that's an example of something which would break hate speech law. Now, in England, we do consider the context. So that means if it's a joke, right, then in England, it can be okay. However, in Scotland, they don't consider the context, which means potentially I just broke Scottish law by saying that to myself, because context doesn't matter. And if context doesn't matter, according to those crazy Scots who I tell you don't know a damn thing about fair law, apparently, if context doesn't matter, then the words I just said broke the law in Scotland. That's wild. That's wild. Come on, look, you got some guy in the sunglasses giving an English class talking about free speech, and you want to say context doesn't matter? Context matters. Look at me. Context really matters. Context is super important. We need to know the context, especially with law. Context is really important. Just crazy for them not to say it. All right, Manuel says, let me tell you one thing, Rich, please just soak. Do you believe that in the news, the UK against Princess Harry could be called free speech? It is absolutely upset, but all the news, why? Well, first of all, Manuel, I think that 99% of journalists are the most disgusting people you could ever possibly meet. I think it's a horrible profession that, especially Western journalists, I think it's a horrible profession that everyone should avoid like the plague. And I think most of the people who are in it right now are really quite pathetic people who desperately need help. I think they desperately need help. I know because I was one. So that's my comments about journalists. However, free speech, yeah, it's free speech. I don't care what they say about Harry. I don't particularly like Harry, to be honest, but I don't think they've said anything about him which is a problem. No one said that we should go after him with the pitchforks, you know? So whatever, I don't care. And, from what I can tell, I don't know. I don't know anything about Harry, really. But from what it seems, I don't think him and his wife have done themselves any favours with the British public. It seems like they hang around with celebrities a lot, you know? And not the kind of celebrities that I would want to associate myself with. You know, people like Oprah Winfrey and so on. Just this kind of media elite in the United States. Yeah, I don't know. Just not my thing, you know. Maybe it's the working class background or something, but that's not my thing. I think whenever people are into luxury a bit too much, I get a little bit suspicious of them, you know. Just back away. Just back away from the luxury and the privilege and the Michelin star meals every day for a moment, okay? Go into the forest with a tent, spend 2 weeks there with your family, have a campfire, eat some barbecued burnt meat, okay? If you can deal with that and you enjoy it even, okay, now let's have a conversation. All right, let's talk about another one of these issues. So some people in the chat have been talking about the free speech laws in their country. So let's talk about that. What is free speech in your country? What laws are there? So what is free speech in your country, and what laws are there about free speech in your country? By the way, I don't want anyone to break the law, okay? Stay on the side of the law in your country. The last thing I want is to hear that one of my live students has been arrested by the Indian police for, I don't know, breaking a 500-year-old blasphemy law or something. I don't know. So you just tell me, because Daisy mentioned about Vietnam. She said free speech doesn't exist, but I enjoy giving my opinion in English about other countries. It's interesting you should say that, Daisy, because my wife says that free speech does exist in Vietnam. So I don't know. Oh. No, you inspired it, Daisy. I read what you typed, and then I was like, yeah, let's talk about that. You inspired the question. Just to remind you, everybody, here is the question. What is free speech in your country? What laws are there? And while we wait for the chat to type their opinions in, I want you to smash that like button and hit subscribe. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, then I would ask you, what are you doing with your life? You're here watching this English stream, you haven't smashed that like button? What? How are you going to get a 9.0 in IELTS next month and your exam if you don't smash that like button? Did you know that by smashing that like button, there's a good chance that your IELTS score will go up by at least 0.5 within the next couple of weeks? A disclaimer, ProfRich makes no guarantee of improvements to IELTS scores based on hitting the like button on a video. Thank you. Police arrested someone for posting their comment on Facebook about a bald politician. Dun, dun, dun. That's interesting. Daisy, could you post that on the Discord? Like a link to the news article? I would be quite interested. Don't worry if you don't want to. I'll find it myself. But that's interesting. So Manuel says, it's something contagious because the Spanish media are a lying machine every now and then. It's like we say, tú largas que algo queda. Tú largas que algo queda. Say whatever you want so people could grab. Largas que algo queda. Largas. Largas is like you throw something. You throw it and something sticks. Something like that. Throw a load of stuff and something sticks. I don't know. Interesting expression. I actually don't I don't understand it, but that's interesting. I think the media everywhere seem to be a lie machine these days. Well, yeah, but doesn't everyone's family belong to the Communist Party in Vietnam? That's how it works, right? All the Vietnamese people belong to the Communist Party, don't they? I thought everybody does. Not just your family, everyone's family, right? We're all. I'm maybe in the future, when I go to visit Vietnam, I'm all about that Vietnamese communist. I'm a big supporter of the Vietnamese Communist Party. Oh yeah, those guys. Yeah, I got nothing bad to say about them. This is why I'm not going to be a journalist. See, I think the real job of a journalist is something like Glenn Greenwald. You guys want to look this up? You want to know you want to know what a real journalist should do? Glenn Greenwald. He's now been persecuted by 3 consecutive Brazilian governments on separate sides of the political spectrum. Glenn Greenwald, plus the United States have been not persecuting him exactly, but they've been baying for his blood for some time. That's Glenn Greenwald. I would highly recommend. He is, for anyone who really wants to be a journalist, he should be your prime example. That's how you do it. People have to meet qualifications to become a communist? What? That's not... How is that communism? That's like elitist communism. How is that even communism? Okay, I know you can't get into this discussion, Daisy, but I thought the whole point of communism was everyone's equal. How can you have a system where people aren't equal because they have special qualification? That's not communism. You don't live in a communist country, Daisy. Congratulations. You live in a country with a hierarchy, and that is not communism. Maybe, to be honest, there's probably no such thing as communism, though. So just deal with it. Nobody could be a black sheep in their country. It's the politicians that are black sheep. Anyway, please don't say anything else, Daisy. I genuinely don't want to get you in trouble. We're going to move on. You don't make any negative comments about the Supreme Leader. That's right, Asmina. And this is ProfRich land. This is ProfRich land. And I'm the Supreme Leader. So I will not tolerate any negative comments about me. Erdogan says WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is free. I know, and we're talking about it. We talked about it. So I want to talk about something else. Let's talk about another subject here. Let's talk about... You ready for this? Let's talk about conspiracy theories. So one thing that happens with free speech is you get people who talk about some wild stuff. Get talking about some wild stuff, right? And that stuff sometimes is called conspiracy theories. Can you guys in chat, can you give me some examples of, what is a conspiracy theory and what examples can you think of? Tell me some ideas. What is a conspiracy theory and can you tell me some examples? Read my comments but speak out loud, you will understand. Do you think so? All right, let's try that. Like in university, students have to have a high academic performance, a good conduct, and their family doesn't have any criminals. Like in university, students have to have high academic performance, a good conduct, and their family doesn't have any criminals. No, I'm totally confused by that. I'm wildly confused by that, to be honest with you. Wildly confused by that. Xin chào to my Vietnamese friends in the Communist Party. Xin chào. Yeah. I've sent my membership form and my fees. Xin chào and Viva Vietnam. I'm all about it. I love Vietnam, honestly. Biden has been using drugs to enhance his debate skills. Huh? That's true. How is that not true? Who doesn't? That's what I want to know. Are you telling me that you're debating without any drugs? That's the conspiracy theory right there. I heard a conspiracy theory that Daisy goes to her debates and doesn't take drugs. Can't be true. Biden was mumbling about Medicare. The United States Medicare. You're gonna pee my pants. Come on, man. Hello, Pure Care. I can do a Trump impression as well, by the way. I don't want to be unfair to Biden. We can do Trump. We're gonna build a wall. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be great. You know, I love it here in Mexico. They don't know, there they are. They're the fake news media. Fake news media. They think we're not going to build a wall, but we are. We're going to build a wall. We're going to build a big, beautiful wall. Everyone's going to love it. Everyone's going to come. Assange, be careful. Secret company, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't know. Did you read the leaks, Manuel? Did you read the leaks? Did you read all of them? Because I've heard about some leaks causing risk for people, but I can't find proof that one person was injured or put in danger because of Julian Assange's leaks. I can't find evidence of one person being endangered, so I don't know what that's all about. Should Jan 6th be counted as a conspiracy theory? Well, it depends what you mean by Jan 6th. If you mean that some people were allowed into the White House and then ran around in fancy dress and then the police shot a woman in the face, then no, that's, as far as I can tell, that's fact. If you mean that some rednecks tried to take control of America, well, I think that's just totally untrue. I mean, is that not just untrue? You know? I mean, since when did rednecks show up without guns if they want to take control of something? I thought rednecks always had guns. They couldn't find anyone in the Capitol who had a gun from this, what was it? This, I don't know what they called, riot, they called it or something? Dear me. I love conspiracy theories. I think they're so interesting. Let's have a little talk about some. In the interests of improving our English and preparing ourselves for IELTS, come out with some of these bangers in IELTS, right? Let's talk about big tech censorship. Actually, maybe we shouldn't talk about big tech censorship because, you know, my friends at YouTube, who I love, and everybody knows YouTube doesn't censor anyone, folks, okay? YouTube doesn't censor anyone. Now, sit down, shut up, stop complaining. YouTube's absolutely fine. They allow all opinions on their platform, and they're really, really great people to work for, you know? I think you should all just watch YouTube 24/7 all the time. So we're not going to talk about big tech censorship. Let's talk about UFOs, the aliens. What do you think, folks? The aliens, are they here? Yes or no? Let's have a vote in chat. And I want to hear your opinions. So, are aliens here on Earth? Yes or no? Do be aware that Rishi Sunak is monitoring this stream. He will be aware of your opinion. And James Bond might pay you a visit if you say the wrong thing. Erdogan says, what does alien actually mean? Okay, so I'm taking it to mean a living being, a living, intelligent being which is not native to planet Earth. A living, intelligent being which is not native to planet Earth. By the way, I'm going to reveal that. Oh. I'm wearing shorts. It's hot. There you go, folks. Leg reveal. We got it. So, aliens, are they here? And how do you know? So, the conversation about aliens has been... There's been some conversation about it recently since I think it was the New York Post posted a news story about aliens, and they basically said that the US military had released all this information about unidentified objects flying in certain ways. And since then, people have really started talking about aliens again. I mean, they used to talk quite heavily about aliens in the 60s, the 50s and 60s with the Roswell incident. But now people are have started to talk about they've started to talk about aliens again. What? What do you mean? Since when do British people have hairy legs? I think you're thinking of Italians, Daisy. British people don't have hair on their legs. Not the Celts, anyway. Maybe you're thinking of those greasy Anglo-Saxons who came here in the 8th century with Alfred the Great. My ancestors are the Britons from 2,000 years ago, and we don't have hair. We don't have hair. Just a beard. These days, my genetic makeup is more in line with that of Ireland, Wales, and so on, because most of the English Celts either bred with other Anglo-Saxons, or they were killed, or they went somewhere else, kind of replaced by the Anglo-Saxons, and then later the Normans. The history is very interesting. Oh, Takeshi! Ding, 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 ding! 20 points. He's hit on a big one. Plot twist: humans are from a different planet. We are aliens. Do you know? I was going to take my sunglasses off, but I can't because of everything else. Do you know? Many years ago, I think I always thought conspiracy theories were interesting, like interesting to talk about, to think about, just for fun, just a bit of fun, But now, I really seriously question everything, So what you're saying, Takeshi, I don't think that's impossible, actually. I mean, maybe there's even a good chance of that. I mean, certainly there's a chance that all life on Earth is from another planet. Maybe it didn't start on this planet. We don't know that. Science definitely doesn't know that, at all, actually. I've read about it extensively. Science cannot guarantee that life began on this planet, according to science. Now, interestingly enough, religion does think that life begins on this planet. Certainly, that's what the Bible says, for sure. However, with things like religious texts, there's always a big question of interpretation. How do you interpret it? And, some people, when they talk about Genesis, which is the first book of the Christian Bible and of the Jewish Torah, some people interpret it literally, but some people interpret it figuratively. So there's all kinds of interpretation there. All right, are we done with conspiracy theories? You don't want to talk about conspiracy theories anymore? So let's have a look at the results to our poll. So according to ProfRich subscribers, 58% of people say that aliens are here on Earth. So, hello. If you are an alien, I just want to say hello. And I, for one, welcome our new alien overlords. You are watching ProfRich, How to Speak Alien. We are only a stage in development on Earth. Yeah, that's a conspiracy if I heard one. Some people saw strange lights in the sky that looked like a UFO. Personally, I haven't saw things like that. I mean, you see strange lights all the time, right? Like, sometimes I walk in my house at night and I see a strange light. Like, people see strange lights all the time. I mean, the mind plays tricks on you, right? All the time. I'm not saying that that's what they saw, but all the time it seems like you can see something, see a light, see a figure, see a whatever, right? But I think more than that, Sleepwalker, we have proven incidences of many military craft and civilian craft which have detected objects moving in a way that we can't explain. And this information has been released publicly by the United States government, for example. So it's not a case of some people seeing lights. It's a case of something else. You know, it's something more than that. I have to show to the disagrees peers my free speech. Yeah. All right, we got any other conspiracy theories there? Fluoride. They're putting fluoride in the water. Fluoride. Do you know what fluoride can do to your body? That's an interesting point. I think Manuel maybe is trying to talk about the idea of the aliens being us in the future, or you're just talking about how we may be able to develop the ability to travel the speed of light. One of those things, right? All right, I think we're getting to the end of this conversation. So let's move on to questions. Bit of reflection. What's the main points you've learned today? And what do you need more practice with after today? So what's the main point that you've learned today? What do you need more practice with after today? Pure Care says science fiction often portrays aliens with a wide range of communication styles, from telepathy to complex vocalizations. Yeah, that's right. And Tetsuro says, even if aliens move at the maximum speed of light speed, it will take too long to come to Earth. Yeah, but this is the thing, Tetsuro. They can fold space. So if you fold space, it doesn't matter, does it? Right? You get your space, you fold it, and then you go through the middle. Through the middle, Tetsuro. Come on. Don't tell me you believe those people in the news media who tell you you can't fold space. Are you one of those flat spacers? All right. So what's the main thing you folks have learned today? Hopefully some vocabulary or something. Make sure that you smash that like button, hit subscribe. Thank you very much, Julia, for reminding me once again. And if you'd like some online classes, I have extra more availability over the summer, especially in the afternoons in England. So you can drop me an email, ProfRich, spelt the Spanish way. Profesor means teacher in Spanish. ProfRich@gmail.com. And I will arrange a free 30-minute level test and trial. We'll chat about it. After that, the cost is £25 an hour with a minimum of 4 hours per month. Several people in the chat have or have had classes with me on a regular basis. Don't worry, Daisy. I can find it. I can find it. Don't worry. Didn't you know my Vietnamese is getting good now? Check it out. Toi lang ngoại ăn. Toi lang ngoại ăn. Yeah. How about that? What else can I say? Ciao. Ciao. Xin chào. Xin. Chúc mừng năm mới. Cà phê xóa đá. Cà phê xóa đá. How do you say? I'm like Minh tích cà phê xóa đá. Anh thích cà phê xóa đá. Anh thích cà phê xóa đá. Bật bơi. Daisy, don't make me bug boy, okay? Right. Question time. Type your questions in the chat. You got any questions? Download the notes from today. The link is in the chat. And will soon be down below the video. Julia says we learned some sorts of disagreement and opposing views and related to the political topic and aliens. Nice. That's what free speech is all about, Julia. It's all about talking about stuff. Really, I'm going to take this off now. Oh, suddenly I feel like really boring and normal. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? How the world can just change wearing sunglasses. Now I just feel like, yeah, don't know, doing some grammar or something. Oh, I told the barista to put it in the microwave. Thank you very much, Manuel, for the £5 donation. If you would like to also be super cool like Manuel and fund whatever nonsense it is that I'm actually doing here, some sort of bizarre, newfangled way of teaching people English. Actually, it's not. It's called conversational English, and it's the best damn way to learn English, and this is the best damn place to learn English on the internet, as you know. You can buy me a coffee just like Manuel does. You can go to bit.ly/thankyouRich. The link is down below the video and in the chat. And of course, all those things are appreciated. They really are, actually. The money I make from the channel is still extremely little, but it's something. I mean, it's something. I have to admit it. Mainly Manuel, actually. It's mainly Manuel. So I'd like to just say thank you to our sponsor, Manuel Gordillo, who is funding the channel. As well as other people who take private classes with me. Do we have any questions, folks? It's question time. Do you have any questions about English or whatever? Any questions about English? Hey, you did understand. Nice. Hey, you said I'm British and low. Yeah, you got it. Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? I'm all over this Vietnamese. So easy. Anh thích cà phê soda. Disagree with someone's ideas. That does not mean all of yours are right. So let it be, let it be. Yes. Oh, that's so true, isn't it? I mean, Manuel, if there's one thing I know, it's that I am wrong about almost everything. But I'm trying to be right about more things. And that's what discussion is about. Does anyone else like changing their mind about their opinion? I like that. That's good, isn't it? Isn't that a good thing if you have an opinion and then later you change your mind about it? It's a powerful thing, isn't it? Why do we expect people to have the same opinion for their whole life, you know? 15 years ago, I thought that Christianity was nothing more than a method used by the Romans to control people's behavior. I really thought that. Now I don't think that at all, actually. In fact, I think that's absurd. Actually, when you look at it, I think it's obviously absurd. I think there is a grain of truth that some Romans tried to manipulate people based on the religious structures. And I think that religious institutions also try to manipulate people sometimes. But I think the idea that the Romans invented Christianity to control people is absurd and makes no sense. And when you really look at it, to me, that's obvious. Changing your mind about stuff's good, isn't it? It's good. It means you found something new and interesting. Obviously, you don't want to change your mind all the time. That's not good. But really challenging your ideas. Believe something strongly, but then challenge it. That's interesting, isn't it? If we speak this sentence with intonation, would you like to tell me how many different meanings in this sentence? Oh, what, with different intonation? Well, I think it would be difficult to tell you how many different meanings, because there could be all kinds, right? I mean, I might not be able to think of everything. But I mean, the obvious distinction to make would be with prominence. And prominence is when we change the word stress. So that would be the obvious one. It's not really intonation, although intonation is involved. So I like to play tennis. 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 And each of those would have a different meaning, right? Like if I say I like to play tennis, then I'm emphasizing that it's tennis and not some other sport, for example. So that's the idea of prominence. So I think that's worthwhile mentioning first of all. Then we might say stuff like, and I can't really represent intonation patterns using Google Docs, but you could say stuff like, I like to play tennis. And then it's like, what? Right? I like to play tennis. I like to play tennis. It's like a surprise to me that someone said that, or that I've discovered I like it. Like, I'm having fun. Wait, I like to play tennis? Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I like to play tennis. Sarcasm. Oh, that's a good idea, because as you know, I like to play tennis. So sarcasm, which is a kind of nasty way of actually saying the opposite, which is that I don't like tennis. So that would be one. And then we've got the idea of politeness as well. I like to play tennis. Doesn't sound very polite. Sounds a bit abrupt. I like to play tennis. Versus, I like to play tennis. Sounds friendly, right? I like to play tennis. How about you? So, yeah, intonation's complicated, and it can mean lots of different stuff. How about this? I don't even want to do this. I'm going to put the sunglasses back on. Okay, you ready for this one? What does this one mean? You ready? Oh yeah. I like to play tennis. Oh, if there's one thing that I just like, it's playing tennis. All right, so yes, intonation can have lots of different meanings, folks. I don't know what that last one meant. It meant that I needed a breath freshener or something. All right. Right, do we have any other questions? Have you ever led a public debate on an interesting topic except teaching English? Led a public debate? No, I haven't. Actually, we have debates in our classroom between the students. I get the students to debate. Is Aboriginal an offensive word? No. Who told you that? It's the opposite, really. Who said that? Who said that Aboriginal is offensive? Is that a thing? Surely not. Surely not. No, it's not. You read? I would have a big question here, Sleepwalker. I'd want to know, where did you read that? Was it what page? Where did you read it? And what was the thing you read? Was it opinion or news or what? But I'm going to say no, it isn't. As far as I know, Aboriginal is the primary way of referring to the native people of Australia before the settlement of the English 400 years ago. So the pre-settlement native people of Australia, because obviously now there's native people of Australia who are of English descent, but going back 500 years, you had a native people before that, and we call those Aboriginal. That's not offensive. I mean, not generally. Someone might get offended by it, but you know, I might get offended if you call me a teacher. You say, hey, you're a teacher. What? What did you call me? Did you just call me a teacher? I'm not a teacher. I'm an artist. Yeah, people get offended by all kinds of stuff. Manuel El Guache. Oh, you're definitely a Guache, Manuel. Yeah. I don't know what that is. I mean, we're all descendants of Aboriginals, aren't we? Aren't we all descendants of Aboriginals? Otherwise, where did we come from? We're all descendants of Aboriginal people. No? We have to be. We have to be. Otherwise, where do we come from? Did some of us come from Earth and some from Mars? And the people from Earth are called Aboriginal? No, we're all descended from Aboriginal. Oh, no. This is not... I don't have the answers to these questions, Flavi. Guanche. Native people from Tenerife. Nice. Nice. Well, I'm a descendant of the Britons, native people from the British Island. Don't believe that Cheshire Man nonsense, all right? Cheshire Man. No, you don't have to apologise. I'm just saying I don't know. I don't know about that. What do I know? It's not my area, okay? I don't think you can. I think you can. I think it's difficult enough to know yourself because there's loads of different emotions that go into one thing. Let me give an example, right? Like, I would say right now, I love my wife more than I ever have. And I only understand that from the time that we've spent together and knowing each other more and overcoming life's challenges and you know? And you might say, yeah, but, you know, what about when you're a teenager and you have all these feelings? What is that? What is that? That is such a surface level of, like, really what love is all about, you know? Love is like, you have to really get to know someone. You know, that's really difficult. It's difficult to get to know yourself, let alone someone else, you know? And the other person that you're getting to know also doesn't really know themselves. So, you know, you're getting to know someone who doesn't know themselves while you don't know yourself. And that's love. Okay, there you go. Philosophy 101, folks. Wisdom with Teacher Rich. Don't call me teacher. I'm an artist. Okay. What am I talking about? All right, everybody, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me today. My name has been ProfRich. You make sure that you smash that like button and hit subscribe. Ding, 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 ding. And do share this video with people who you think want to learn English in this way and would appreciate it. Here we learn real, natural English using phrases. We don't focus on nonsense rules and grammar and all the rest of it. Some people might say that we're a little bit unconventional, but that's not true. We are the convention. It's everyone else who's unconventional. All right. Have a lovely weekend, folks. It's my pleasure, as always. I'm not sure there'll be a stream on Wednesday, but the week after that, maybe there'll be a lot of streams. Just saying. All right, everybody. It's been my pleasure, and I will catch you later.